How you doing, Draftstars players? Hope you had a great week last week and a lot of the selections went well. I hope you just had the right combination of spending up in certain positions and then getting a lot of those cheapies who came out and did really well, especially guys like Preston came out and did the exact job that we need. Connolly, Lemuelu, these types of players came out and did great. So hope you got that combination and did really well. But we head to round 4 of Draft Stars, and we're going to go through all 8 games. If you haven't signed up yet, guys, head into the description below. The lovely guys at Draft Stars would just like to know if someone is signing up through my videos, so thank you very much for that. Okay, we look to the Eels v the Panthers. There's 2 ways to look at this game. There's one that it is really low scoring, and there's one that it's really high scoring with the way that the Eels have been playing in terms of letting 30 plus points in at the moment. So if you're looking at consistency, players like Stephen Crichton at 13,000, Dylan Edwards doing a great job up top as well. Dylan's going to be the most consistent, but I think you should be going for someone like Crichton, To'o, or Penasini at the cheaper price points to do a good job for you. Guys like Clint Gutherson could come out and get a big one, very up and down type of score. You saw the 43 last week, which would definitely be enough at a little bit under 12,000 bucks. Sunya Taruva, if you want to go under 10k, if that's all you've got left, he'd be the guy I'd be looking to play in my side. If you're looking at the halves and the hookers, we do have Mr. Cleary up top. I still need to see him come out and play well before I select him, so I'll be avoiding at this stage. Mitch Moses, big score in this one, I imagine. I'm seeing lots of kick meters and a nice try assist or a try to round him out with about a 60. So that's the play I'd be looking at in this game. Guys like Mitch Kenny, either you play him in the halves or hooker, or I think you have to play him in the flex. 10,350, 41 average over the first 2 weeks, tackling hard and doing a great job. In the forwards, we see Jermaine Hopgood come up to 17,000 now. So a little bit less exciting than he was. I still think Isaiah Yeo is a clear top pick, along with Ryan Madison, who looks to get some minutes on the edge and also through the middle this week. There's a couple of guys up top I'd be looking at a cheaper price point. I think Liam Martin at 16k is going to do well, along with Junior Barlow there and Regan Campbell-Gillard. Still under 15k and both averaging over 50. Didn't score as well last week. There are so many options in the forwards, guys, because you can go down to guys like Garner, who came out with an awesome round 2, and he could come out and have a nice one again this week, but he's up against someone like Ryan Madison. So that is that first game to kick off the round. I think that's going to be a pretty hard one to select, so good luck with that one. In terms of the Storm and the Tigers, expecting a big bounce back from the Storm. The West Tigers seem in disarray at the moment, so you get Adam Dewey in the 1 position. I still think he's a bit of a trap, guys. I'd be picking Nick Meaney over him every day of the week. Dane Laurie's on the bench to avoid him and that scoring. Brent Naden's been up and down, so great first week, great round 3. I'd probably look to avoid him. I'd go Asuka Poa, who I think it's going to have a nice base. And then if he can jag a try, that would be the way to go. Still, a great option, guys, I think, is Will Warbrick. With Munster back, Hughesy out. Hughesy seems to step in off the right all the time. So surely Warbrick can get his first try of the year in round 4 and do well for your side. In terms of halves and hookers, I think Harry Grant, clearly the top selection this week. And Munster will be solid, but I think Harry's the way to go up top there. And if you are going for the Tigers, I think someone like Brandon Wakeham could do a good job for you in that 7 role this week. Comes out with a 32.5 average, which involves just the 1 game last week, which he came on partway through that game and got 32. So I think he's a solid one as well. And Jonah Pezzett should get that spot with Jerome Hughes being out. And he's a nice cheap option as well. If you think the Storm could come out and do well, he got some nice attacking stats. In the forwards in this one, we've got Isaiah Papali'i. I think he's just an avoid at the moment. Same with Johnny Bateman, who is coming back from a little bit of an injury, but it's obviously his time off away from the game. Guys like Eli Katoa, still a great option, guys. 52 over his first 3 weeks at 15.5k is the way to go there. Joshy King, I still think that this one will be a little bit less points than last week, so he'll get back to some of his good form. Trent Leoro, I think he's probably a slight avoid, but I'm at, tackles is what is his currency at the moment. He hasn't been able to score any tries, so you can bank on him potentially scoring one, but I still think it's a bit of a risk, so up to you on that one. We move to the next game, and that's going to be the Dolphins up against the Broncos. In the outside backs, I see Herbie and Walsh battling it out for the best player in this outside backs position this week. Jermaine Osako, if you think that the Dolphins can come out and win this one, he could be the play, but otherwise it's going to be Katoni Staggs and Selwyn Cobbo who will be battling it out for that cheaper spot. I'd be avoiding someone like Jesse Arthurs. Halves and the hookers. What we want to be looking at here is someone like Adam Reynolds needs to be in your side, I think, this week. He's the clear top option. And then if you're looking for a sort of medium option there, Ezra Mam could be your play. on the flex potentially, or Cody Nikorima in the 9 jersey. Did get a try last week, which you shouldn't get on a regular basis there. In the forwards, Payne Haas is still the clear top option. Him, Carrigan, both going to do a great job. But I think Tom Gilbert is a great play this week. A lot cheaper, and maybe he's your highest price guy or your second highest price guy this week. You'd imagine Mark Nichols comes out and gets many more minutes this week with the forwards that they have out. They have Felice Kafusi out in this one. Jared Wallace just coming back, but they could be the play there. And then Connolly Lemuelu is a clear option this week again, averaging 38 across the first 3 weeks, and that includes a really low score in round 2 where he had the HIA. So a 40 plus score, probably around the 40 mark I'd expect this week against a better Broncos side, but still worth it in your team. And whoever gets that starting role could be a solo one, but I think Mason Teague could be a play this week if he happens to, either way, I think on the bench or in the starting side, whoever gets that role, one of those two, I think going to be pretty good. But I think you can bank on Teague getting a sort of 30 in that game this week. Outside backs for the Cowboys and Titans. Very interesting game, this one, because how do we think the Cowboys are going to go? Will they bounce back? I'm looking for a bounce back here, and I would expect Val Holmes to be the beneficiary of the Cowboys playing a lot better. In terms of other cheaper guys, Tom Chester still, I think, is a good option. Who do you want to play in the Titans? That's the question. Brimson's been still getting some attacking stats, but still a 41 for him isn't too exciting. Shibasaki had a nice game last week with 39.8, so very interesting there for him to come in and play well enough there to still score well in a team that got beat. So that's kind of the play on that one. Cam Pereira you can have a little flutter with, but I would be avoiding that if possible. And in our halves and hookers, you got Chris Randall coming off actually a fairly low game, which I would have expected a bit more. So he could bounce back, but I'd be avoiding him this week. Up top's probably the play to go in Reece Robson. And then from there, Chad Townsend still doing his thing with all the kick meters. Him or Tanner Boyd if you wanted to go cheaper. The other kind of solid options there. Tanner with plenty of goals. Kicks last week. Could happen again if the Cowboys come out pretty poor. In the forwards, I think this one's going to be a hot one again. So does Dave Fafita get some time on the sidelines? That's the question you need to ask yourself. We don't see Cotter this week, so who's going to get those big minutes? Jordan McLean's been pretty solid. Could he continue to do that? I'm not exactly sure. Harlem Lukey should get some bigger minutes. You got Griffin Neem starting. Does he get 40 to 50 minutes? And if he does, then he could be a cheap one to pop in your side. Other than that, the forwards position here is not very exciting, so you may have to price to pay up a little bit, or you're going for someone like Joe Stimson, who's coming off a low one last week, but better the 2 weeks before. Jeremiah Nana, I think we need to avoid at this point, and Tino is just so up and down, it's hard to work out what's the go with him. Okay, so Rabbitohs and the Sea Eagles. This will be a very close game, and it could be an interesting one in the outside backs, how you want to play this. Someone like Campbell Graham has been scoring really well. Him and Isaiah Tass are sort of the consistent guys in this side, and if that's the way you want to play it, then that's cool. Thompson and Kohler, the cheaper guys that you could select, which I still think that they have their issues, but sort of you could bank on a 30 odd for Kohler. Thompson's going to be like 10 or 40, so that's definitely a worry. But do you go up top and just go to Tom Trebojevic, who had a cracker last week, or Garrick in that side, or go for Latrell Mitchell? Might be a mixture of one expensive guy and one cheap guy, especially when you look at the halves and the hooker position, and really you want to be going for someone pretty expensive here. Schuster could be an option at 12k, but other than that, it's DCE or Cook in your side. So do you have enough money to go elsewhere? Might have to save a little bit in the forwards position. So Cheekham, he comes off the bench now. He could be a guy that gets 40 or 50 minutes and still does well. Jacob Host is starting. I think, with how tough the position is in the outside backs and the hookers and halves, I think you need to go for Hosty. Akepi is a clear option he must have this week in your side. Davi Moale could come out and score all right. Also, you probably have to go one of the more expensive guys, whether it's, Colin Matangi, I think would be a safe one. I think he's the guy. Probably have to fade Cam Murray this week. Let's move to the last 3 games of the week, guys. Warriors v the Dogs. The outside backs there. Carraz, I still think, is a clear best option for your side, and you compare him with either Alamotti or Perham, or have one of those two in your flex. I think that would be a great play. Guys like Montoya did great last week. Tayin Tuapiki, but he is out this week. Chance is back, but I'd be avoiding those guys. I think the Dogs will come out and just win this one. But yeah, have a little play with your flex, because there's a few options in that halves hookers position. Sean Johnson, I think, is the clear guy to get in your side this week. Reed Marnie is the other option. Tamati Martin, again, if you need to use that cheap price on your flex, he had his best game of the year last week, and I'm not sure if that will continue going forward. Tohu Harris still averaging the best up top. Jazz Tavanga low minutes and still scored great. So Tohu's still the guy. Would I pick Jazz? Probably not. I think he needs to get 50 plus minutes to be worth it. Max King was decent, but not good enough, I don't think, at this point. Preston's still a must-have this one, even though he's priced up. And I think Jackson Ford at 11.7 would be the next play in your team for the forwards. And then last two games, guys, we move on to the Knights v the Raiders, and Lockie Miller, still that clear best option up top, along with Dane Gagai. Matt Tomoko, if you want the cheaper guy on your side who has some upside, then he would be that play. I'd expect Raiders to come out and win this one, so he would be a good one. Albert Hopewadi potentially getting some tries on the back of some nice movement there as well. But yeah, if you want to go expensive, then you can go to those Knights, guys. But yeah, please step with caution, let's say that. Okay, halves and hookers. Jaden Brayley scored really well in the first game, got a 55.9, so he could go back to that and obviously not worried too much about salary in this position because it's going to be him, Fogarty, White, and Hastings. And I think Brayley's your best option. Starling's going to be off the bench still. So is Crossland, and Tyson Gamble had a good game, guys, without going crazy. 49.6, even with a few errors at the end. So that's good news for Tyson if you want to use his price point. I think that's a good idea. In the forwards there, you've got Joe Tarpany up top. Hasn't been playing to the levels that we're hoping for with him. Lockie Fitzgibbon's been super consistent, so I'd probably go for him instead. You've got Kurt Mann coming back. I'd probably want to avoid him in his return game. I think he can do a little bit better. Guys like Corey Horsburgh, if he can continue to get some try-scoring games there, he'll be great. But a 47 and a 70, his last two, are both great options. Leo Thompson, I think, is a clear one you need to get in your side this week. Should be able to get a 40-plus score pretty comfortably. Got a 51 last week. And 50-ish minutes, I think, will be pretty stock standard. Josh Papali'i is back, so I think you can avoid a lot of the Raiders cheaper guys. And then Matty Croker came out with a 45.5 last week, under 10K. He's the best option in that one. And our last of the round, guys, is the Dragons and the Sharks. And what we're looking at here in the outside backs is some pretty low numbers. Jesse Ramian I spoke about as being the good option last week, and he picked up his highest of the year. So I think he can come out and do a great job again in this one. Ronaldo hasn't scored that great over the with the 7 in first game, but much better in the last two. He continues to need to score tries to do well. Will Kennedy continues to get involved as well, and he could be a guy that has been consistent, and at 11,000, really there's no issue in picking him up. And then Ravalawa has scored well over the last couple of weeks as well, 37.9. He's been really safe. Tyrell Sloan has been scoring tries, and a 43 and a 32 for him. So if you need someone at 9K, Sully and Sloan will do a job for you. But up against a tougher Sharks side, I think they're not going to score super well. But again, we've seen how these first 3 rounds have ended up. Anything could happen. Looking at the halves and hookers, there's Nico Hines back, almost 25K. I think you can fade him this week, but he still could come out and get an 80 plus. Hey, what you want to look at with guys like Little is last week's minutes, not very good. So 40 points for him. I think he's been priced up too far. Trindle we can't pick anymore because he's on the bench. And really, so I think it comes down to, Hines, Brayley, Hunt, if you're going to pick anyone there. Moylan at the cheaper price, we probably want to avoid. So if you're going cheap in the outside backs, then I think you can spend up on Hinesy or Brayley there, who's averaging 49. In our forwards position, McInnes we want to avoid. He's too expensive for the minutes that are giving him at the moment. Britton Nakora continues to score tries. I think he's a great one. And then Teague Wilton's been priced up now that he's averaging 50. So either one of those two would be the way to play it. Dale Finucane's been great as well. So if you can expect some big minutes again from him, he'll be an awesome option. Braden Hamlin-Uele, 38 is his average. He's been consistent, 29 is his lowest there. So he'll be a solid one as well. I think it'd be too much of a risk to go for Ben Murdoch-Masila. And Oregon Kafusi looks really safe as well to hit you sort of that 30 mark. Is it 26 as his lowest, 36 as his highest? As I said, guys, jump in the description below, hit that sign up link just to let them know that you're coming from my channel. That would be very appreciative. I would be very appreciative of that. And good luck this week on Draftstars and also NRL Fantasy and Supercoach. Have a good week.